Recently, society has finally begun embracing the LGBTQ collective, with a massive spotlight shining on trans pioneers. A wave of Black icons stepped forward, fearlessly unveiling their deeply personal paths toward their true selves. They are crushing old myths while serving as beacons of hope for people across the globe. Beyond private struggles, these stars fought systemic hurdles, from ruthless media scrutiny to blatant Hollywood bias. Let's look at 15 legendary Black figures who transitioned and redefined what it means to be authentic. They reclaimed their power, leaving an indelible mark on our culture along the way. The hurdles they cleared would break the average person's spirit. These life stories, often kept in the shadows, are guaranteed to stun you once they come to light. Hit that follow button. If tales of raw grit and self-truth move you, you won't want to miss what's coming. Spread the word, drop a like, and subscribe to join us as we explore these phenomenal life paths. Catch you in the upcoming episode. Coming out of 1940s, Chicago, Major Griffin Gracie didn't just watch history unfold, she forced it to change. She led the charge during the 1969 Stonewall Uprising, the spark that set the global equality movement ablaze. Yet, away from the activism, her private existence was shadowed by intense social rejection. She endured time behind bars while locked in a relentless war against a rigged legal machine. Picture being a Black trans woman in the 1960s, trying to be real when the entire world wants you invisible. That was her daily reality, constantly dodging mockery, loneliness, and physical threats. Even worse, she was cast into a penal system where trans women were stripped of all basic rights. In those facilities, they were targeted for extreme, inhumane abuse. During her stint at Attica, she saw the gut-wrenching cruelty of life in a cage up close. Those traumatic memories fueled her spirit, turning her into a lifelong warrior for the marginalized. Her legacy isn't defined solely by pain. It's a masterpiece of survival and revolutionary spirit. Post-Stonewall, she emerged as a powerful champion for everyone the world tried to ignore. Leading the TGI Justice Project, she poured her soul into helping Black trans sisters restart after prison. She didn't just protest from the sidelines, she walked right into the cells herself. She delivered food and clothes, but her greatest gifts were pure empathy and restored self-worth. Major wasn't merely a trans woman, she was a combatant for human rights. Each wound and every cold night in a cell only served to make her resolve unbreakable. Her path was tragic yet breathtaking, proving that cruelty fails when met with unyielding courage. No injustice can stand when enough brave souls fight back. Arriving in 1975 from Tobago, Dominique Jackson cemented herself as a queer icon. Once a misunderstood girl in a narrow-minded town, she evolved into a worldwide superstar. Her performance as Electra Abundance in the hit show Pose completely mesmerized the public. Behind the glamour, her road was paved with heartbreak and unbelievable mental toughness. Rejection defined her youth. When she opened up in the early 90s, her own kin cast her out. Her neighbors followed suit, forcing her to flee Tobago for America with zero fallback plan. She arrived with a shattered spirit and a tiny glimmer of hope for a fresh start, but the dream turned sour quickly, and she soon found herself without a roof over her head. Many nights were spent shivering on benches, wondering if she would even see tomorrow. Then came the ballroom culture, a vibrant, fierce world where Dominique didn't just exist. She conquered, carrying herself like a queen. Her unshakable aura turned her into an absolute legend. Even when the cameras were off, she still battled bias, even within spaces meant for trans safety. After getting tossed out of a refuge one evening, a friend shared a secret that stuck. Use your pain as your greatest weapon. If they won't give you a seat, build your own empire. And she did exactly that. Playing Electra Abundance in Pose went way beyond a killer acting gig. It was a gritty, honest look at the real world. Wars she actually survived. With her commanding vibe on screen and deep activism off-camera, Dominique evolved beyond being just an actress. She's a fierce advocate for queer rights, a speaker for the silenced, and a powerhouse of true grit. Even while enjoying the limelight today, she stays grounded in her roots. After rising from the hardest times, she found her way to the top, showing the world that you can't dim a light that's meant to blaze. Born in 1980 in Wisconsin, Angelica Ross once felt totally adrift. She was a kid cast out by her folks just for being herself. But out of that deep pain and bias, she came back like a phoenix, making history as the first trans woman leading a Broadway show. She turned the stage into a sanctuary. It became a place where she found her worth and lifted up her whole community. Her path to finding herself kicked off in the early 2000s while she was in her 20s. The moment she embraced her truth, her family bailed on her, leaving her on the streets with nothing, scrapping to survive. She grinded as a server and model just to eat. Those lonely nights in a bare room almost crushed her. But she wouldn't fold. She fought. Angelica weaponized her struggle, refusing to let the world's hateful vibes kill her ambition, dead set on making a life. She taught herself to code, opening new doors and flipping the script on her future. In 2014, she launched TransTech Social Enterprises, an organization helping trans folks land careers in tech. But she didn't stop there. The industry couldn't look away when she finally stepped into the big leagues of Hollywood, crushing it in Pose and American Horror Story. She smashed ceilings, proving trans talent is top tier and deserves respect. Then came the game changer in 2022. Angelica made waves by starring as Roxy Hart in Chicago on the Broadway stage. When the curtain rose, the crowd went wild to honor a woman who went from being cast aside to being the main event. This victory belonged to more than just her. It was a massive win for the whole queer family. Her life is proof that no goal is too far away. She didn't just make it, she flourished, going from a social outcast to an absolute, unstoppable powerhouse. Her journey isn't just a cool story. It's living proof that resilience turns trauma into pure strength. Born in 1980 in Pennsylvania, Peppermint faced a world that ignored her, feeling like a ghost in the shadows of hate. But after years of quiet struggle, she defied the odds as the first out trans queen on RuPaul's Drag Race. She made history once more as a lead trans actress on Broadway, starring in the hit production Head Over Heels. Her journey of flipping pain into power started in the early 2000s, when the world was much harsher toward her identity. As a kid, she dealt with constant hate and mocking, finding refuge in gritty, dim bars where she performed to survive. Those tiny clubs weren't just a job. They were where she fought for her right to exist. Every single time she hit that stage, it was more than just a show. She was pushing back against a cruel world that wanted her muted. In that dark place, she found her fire, breaking records on TV and Broadway in 2017. Peppermint joined Drag Race and bravely came out as trans on air. That move shook up the stiff rules that had long governed the drag scene. Instead of being overlooked, she blew the world away with her skill and raw, honest vibe. She paved the way, becoming a light for everyone told they didn't belong in this world. Her fame skyrocketed in 2018 when she landed that massive lead role in Head Over Heels on Broadway. But this win felt like a win for everyone. This marked a historic milestone that shook the queer community to its core. Center stage, she poured every drop of her heartache and triumph into her craft, forging a role that became a living monument to raw truth. Her journey isn't just moving, it's a revolution. It's a fierce reminder that no hate is too thick to pierce, no dream too wild. She proves that those brave enough to stand in their truth can actually shift the world's axis. Growing up in Deep Red Mobile, Alabama, Laverne Cox survived a childhood shadowed by relentless, cruel bullying. Yet, she forged that agony into pure, unyielding power. Rising as the first trans woman with an Emmy nod for playing Sophia Bursette in Orange is the New Black. She dominated Hollywood while crushing the toxic labels that had suffocated her community for decades. Laverne's path to self-love took root in the late 1990s while she was studying in Birmingham, Alabama, but the climb was brutal. She was raised amidst icy glares, venomous words, and physical assaults. The mockery from her classmates cut deep. But the heaviest blow came from home, an adored mother who wouldn't accept her out of fear of what others might think. Still, Laverne didn't shatter. She sought refuge in dance, a holy ground where she could breathe and leave reality behind. Art saved her soul, providing the space to rebuild herself after years of fighting bigotry and hidden scars. Fueled by her dreams, she headed for New York City, the place that would redefine her entire existence. That breakout role in Orange is the New Black shifted the landscape forever. Laverne didn't just dazzle fans with her talent, she became a titan for the transgender movement. Gracing the cover of Cosmopolitan and other massive publications, she upended social rules, demanding dignity and real equality. But her greatest victory wasn't won on a film set. It happened when her mother finally stood tall beside her, telling the world how proud she was of her daughter. After years of cold shoulders, that moment healed Laverne and stood as a monument to unconditional love. From a cast-aside child to a world-renowned pioneer, Laverne Cox turned her scars into armor, smashing glass ceilings and inspiring millions across the map. Hailing from Miami in 1977, T.S. Madison went from a social outcast to a massive industry disruptor. Beyond just being famous, she's a wrecking ball for progress. It's making history with the T.S. Madison Experience as the first Black trans woman to front her own reality series. This didn't just give her a platform, it gave her community a megaphone. But under the bright lights lies a gritty tale of pure survival. In the late 1990s, Madison chose to live out loud, braving a storm of constant hate, coming from the public and even from within the LGBTQ+ world. As a Black trans woman, she survived being broke and ignored before her viral hit. New Weave 22 changed everything. That video, blending wit with a heavy message, was more than just comedy. It was a manifesto of self-pride. It was a moment that hit home for millions. Overnight, Madison became a star, kicking open doors that had been double-locked against people like her. But she was never going to settle for just internet fame. By 2021, she rewrote the history books again with her show, cementing a permanent place for Black trans women in media. It was more than a series. It was a movement proving that being authentic is the ultimate power move. No one would have guessed the boss, now leading a crew of over 50, mostly from the queer community, was once blacklisted from opportunities just for being her true self. Madison didn't wait for a seat. She built her own entire table. Today, T.S. Madison is a media titan and a living legend of how to turn pain into a crown. Her journey isn't just a story. It's a blueprint for the next generation of Black trans icons in showbiz. If this story of living your truth spoke to you, be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss our next powerful feature. Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear what you think. Thanks for hanging out. I'll catch you in the next one. Hawaii's own Janet Mock isn't just a brilliant creator. She's a powerhouse of grit and focus. She made history as the first trans woman running things behind the scenes on massive hits like Pose. More than just an artist, she's a fierce advocate speaking up for trans folks everywhere. In the early 90s, she tackled the tough road of transitioning while still a high schooler. Growing up in poverty, she recognized her truth early on. Despite the brutal world around her, without a dime, Janet took to the streets to pay for her surgery, a journey marked by trauma and scars, but she refused to let her vision die. She found her fire in Janet Jackson, a superstar who defined what it meant to be independent. At 18, she headed to Thailand for surgery, a move that finally set her spirit free. Physical recovery was hard, but the cold glares and cruel words hurt even more. Still, Janet turned that agony into fuel, using her gift for storytelling to reclaim her life. Her 2014 book, Redefining Realness, opened eyes everywhere to the trans experience. She kept breaking barriers by directing and producing Pose, opening doors for creators like her. Today, Janet Mock stands tall as a living symbol of perseverance. From a kid facing impossible odds, she became a legend who writes her own rules. She's an absolute icon for the queer community. Born in Michigan back in 1983, Brian Michael Smith is a stellar talent. He's also a trailblazer, rewriting the story for Black trans men in film. As a kid, he was an elite athlete. Even with the gold medals, he felt totally disconnected from himself. It was a silent struggle he couldn't tell a soul about. In his early 20s, Brian came out. Despite a society that was often hostile to Black trans men, driven to live for real, Brian moved forward with his transition. But starting out as an actor, he saw how few doors were actually open for people like him. Most roles were just bad jokes or tragic tropes. Brian wasn't having it. He refused to let lazy stereotypes box him in. His big break in Queen Sugar blew those tired cliches out of the water. He brought authentic representation to the screen. Followed by his role as a heroic firefighter in 911 Lone Star, he plays men whose character and strength speak louder than their gender label. His presence on screen is pure, unfiltered power. He's changed how the world sees trans people and what it means to be a man today. Brian isn't just a great actor, he's a symbol of staying true to your core. His path reminds us that no matter how rocky the road gets, those who embrace their truth will eventually find their own light. Chicago native Alexandra Gray, born in 1991, had a childhood defined by struggle, Surviving the foster system and homelessness would break anyone. But she wasn't about to quit. She was determined to forge her own future. No matter what. Beyond the lack of a home, she faced massive pushback as she began her transition. With nobody in her corner, she walked that hard path alone. But she never lost her fire. On those quiet nights, singing for change on the street, Alexandra found her soul. She didn't just survive, she bloomed, turning her history into a lesson in self-belief. From the streets to the spotlight, she starred in major hits like Empire and How to Get Away with Murder. She flipped the script on her pain, using her craft to prove she belongs. Today, Alexandra is a true talent and a guiding light for trans youth everywhere. Her path signifies more than winning. It's a total uprising against bigotry. Alexandra's grit and skill cleared a path for the overlooked, showing that every goal is obtainable. She embodies pure bravery and the burning itch to reshape our planet. 1991 Jersey-born Michaela J. Rodriguez isn't merely famous. She's an industry-shifting visionary. In 2022, she broke ground as the initial trans woman securing a Golden Globe trophy. This win transcended personal gain, marking a massive turning point for Hollywood at large. Life hasn't been smooth for MJ. The early 2010s saw her battling intense inner turmoil regarding her identity. Once MJ embraced her authentic reality, her entire existence shifted, defeating bias and family abandonment. She proved her value. Then, starring as Blanca in Pose launched her into the stratosphere, refusing to settle. MJ kept dazzling audiences across the theater scene, most notably through her show-stopping turn as Audrey in Little Shop. Her achievements are more than trophies, they're a loud, undeniable declaration. Trans creators earn their flowers, dignity, and a seat at the big table. By smashing walls and championing real-world visibility, MJ smoothed the road for upcoming trans stars, making sure they're finally heard and honored. New Orleans native Amaya Scott, born 1988, is a top-tier model and a bold LGBTQ+ crusader. Known for her killer performance in Star, Amy embodies pure power, grâce, and unshakable grit. She didn't just disrupt high fashion, she ignited hope for trans individuals across the plains. Globe, Amaya's path toward finding herself kicked off at age 17. Choosing truth in the early 2000s, South was risky, not just tough, but potentially fatal. Amaya stood her ground, facing glares and hate. Her resolve stayed ironclad. She hacked out a space in modeling and media long before fame ever arrived. Though she battled isolation and pain, she wouldn't let hard times dictate her story. Rather, she emerged as an early pioneer for out-and-proud trans talent on cinema screens, leveling obstacles for those following her. Beyond her looks, Amaya fights fiercely for fairness and legal rights, true parity, and better screen time for the trans community in showbiz. Calling her a model is an understatement. She's a full-on revolution. Ballroom matriarch Gia Banks lifted an entire scene. As a performer and mentor, Gia's influence on the floor is permanent, cementing her legendary status among trans folk. Entering the scene at 19, Gia sparkled instantly. Yet, she's far more than an entertainer. She's evolved into a soulful matriarch, a light for trans people hunting for belonging and safety far away from the stage lights. Gia tirelessly secures doctors and lawyers for the forgotten souls society turned its back on. The road was rough, raised broke, and alone. She dealt with bigotry from the start. However, the ballroom circuit offered sanctuary, admission, and room to be herself. Decades of grinding meant fighting quiet wars and facing walls that felt impossible to climb. Still, she wouldn't let trauma own her. Leaning into her unyielding toughness, she ascended, transforming from a star dancer into a vital architect of today's strong community. Gia Banks exceeds her legend status on the floor. She mirrors grit and heart, motivating many to speak up, own their reality, and finally emerge from hiding. Texan-born 1991 Maya Taylor went from the streets to winning the first Trans Gotham Award. Maya didn't just break molds, she carved her legacy into the cinematic record books. Prior to making it big, she battled massive hurdles, like sleeping rough and working odd gigs just to eat. Then destiny intervened during a meeting with Sean Baker's direction flipped the script on everything. Casting her in Tangerine sparked a total transformation, catapulting an unknown talent into history as the very first trans actress to snag a prestigious Gotham Award. Yet, Maya's path was anything but a walk in the park. Raised in a traditional Texas household, she fought to embrace her identity while navigating a world thick with prejudice. It wasn't just a battle against external forces. She was warring with her own heart, surviving bitter isolation and nights without a roof over her head. She refused to break. Tangerine stands as a powerful tribute to her unshakable spirit. She showed the world that talent knows no labels, all it needs is a genuine chance. Trans creators aren't just here to participate, they're here to redefine the whole industry. Trailblazing model Monroe Bergdorf has smashed through every single barrier in her path. Arriving in 1987, this British icon shattered glass ceilings as L'Oréal UK's debut trans face. Despite the fame, she's constantly fighting racial bias and heavy social expectations, a journey of self-realization that kicked off during her university years. Stepping onto the runway only ramped up the pressure as Monroe fearlessly found her voice. After she called out systemic racism, the brand dropped her instantly, causing a massive uproar. But that supposed failure only made her message louder. Staying quiet was never an option. Monroe evolved into a fierce advocate, championing trans rights, while pushing for digital security and true gender parity. Driven by pure grit, she serves as a light for the LGBTQ+ family. Leveraging her influence to dismantle ancient biases, every roadblock she hit only fueled her inner strength, showing everyone that no matter how hard they try to put her out, Monroe's glow is unstoppable. She's paving a bright road for anyone brave enough to live their truth unapologetically. Born in 1989, Cece McDonald transitioned from a targeted inmate to a legendary icon for trans liberation. Calling Cece an activist is an understatement. She's the ultimate embodiment of bravery and survival, thrown in jail for simply surviving a vicious, hate-driven assault. She became a thunderous advocate against trans feminine violence, starting in 2011. While heading home, Cece was jumped by a mob, yet somehow, the victim became the accused. The courts turned their back on her, handing down a murder conviction just because a black trans woman dared to stay alive in a biased world. Her trial exposed the systemic rot that minority groups deal with daily. While locked up, Cece faced non-stop friction from other prisoners, but she used that agony to fuel her fire. Her ordeal turned into a global movement, sparking a major film and accelerating the worldwide push for trans equality. These black icons haven't just embraced their authentic selves with courage, they've become massive pillars of strength for the LGBTQ+ tribe and the entire world. Their stories highlight why radical love and support matter. As we move forward, may everyone find the safety to be loud and proud without facing hate. Keep those good vibes flowing, push for fairness, and build a space where everyone is free to be real.